Hi everyone, me and Luigi, we're back. Hi boy, you say hi to everyone. Hi, hi. Okay, boy. Um, I wanted to share with everybody today three stories involving three different animals that I communicated with from around the world. It's kind of like Chicken Soup for the Animal Lover's Soul. No reference to the book. Um, the first animal I wanted to speak about was the horse that I rode in South Africa, in Cape Town. Me and my sister had an impromptu horse ride, and we were in the Langeberg region near Barrydale, and I really didn't have any riding clothes. I had shorts, I had boots that you'd wear outside, not for horse riding, but fashion boots, and a t-shirt. And my sister wasn't in any better horse riding gear herself. But they allowed us to sign up for an outride, a hack, and we went. And I found that it was a 3 hour walk, and about an hour and 10 minutes roughly into the walk, I heard this voice say, "Please, can you sit in the middle of my back? You know, my leg really hurts." And I thought to myself, well, the sun was really hot outside. You know, Africa's heat can be quite hot. It was over 40 degrees. I thought I must have sunstroke. You know, I had already known that I could hear animals, but it didn't happen all the time. So it did take me by surprise. So I shifted and moved to the middle, and then after a little bit, maybe half an hour more, I heard the voice again underneath me say, "Could you move to the back? It really hurts." So then I knew it was the horse, and I communicated with her, and I said to her, you know, should I get off? I mean, we had another about hour and a half, you know, for the ride, and then to about an hour and a half till the end of the ride. And she said, no, you know, that wasn't going to happen. She knew that wasn't going to happen. There was a time and schedule for me to walk back would take a long time. So I just continued, and I felt awful on the horse, feeling that she was in pain and I didn't know what to do. I finished the horse ride, and at the end of the ride, I got off the horse, and there was a man that had taken us on the ride that was in charge of the animals. He didn't own them, they weren't his, but he was hired to look after them. And usually I'm so quiet and private about all of this, but I felt forced by the angels to ask him, and I said, does this horse have a problem with their left foot, like a blister or something? And he looked so shocked, and he said to me, I always get scared to say these things to people in case they think the devil's inside me, or I don't know, chase me away with a broomstick. But I did it anyway, and he said to me, yes, why did I ask? So I said, because, you know, the horse told me that she had a pain while I was riding. And he kind of scratched his head and he looked at me and he said, the horse told you? And I said, yes. And he said, can, you know, do you have any time with you? I would love you to look at some of the other horses that I'm working with at the moment, especially one that I'm having a very hard time with in particular. I said, of course, I would. And he said that he had checked out her leg in the morning, and it had been healing for about a week, and he thought that she was fine, you know. So it's so interesting how sometimes, like, looking at something, a horse or a dog or somebody can look well and appear absolutely fine, like the regular time to let things happen. But this horse was clearly in pain, and had asked me to kind of shift my body weight to support her. This actually was the second time that's happened to me on a horse, where a horse has asked me to move my weight. And so it's kind of made me think about riding. You know, I love to ride, but you know, actually this has happened 3 times when a horse has mentioned its back. So usually if I'm in a position, I'll just climb off the horse immediately. But you have to be discerning, and it's not easy to know if they don't tell you. And then there's the second story, was also out in Africa. I was visiting my mom. She lives just past Barrydale and Van Wyksdorp, she did. And she wanted to take me to this baboon sanctuary where there was a vet that took in injured baboons, or baboons whose had been orphaned, whose parents had been shot. And we went to visit. She wanted me to look at somebody in particular, and we went to this baby baboon, and it was the most, I don't even have words to describe how humbled I was, how touched I was, how, you know, I felt like crying. The baboon told me how he had seen his mom shot, and that he felt very alone. And he pointed to where he'd gotten a bullet wound too. And I didn't know the history. My mom just let me go and communicate. And then afterwards she called the man who ran the sanctuary and who was a vet, and I told him what the little baboon had said. And I mean, he couldn't believe it. It's exactly how it happened, how mom had been shot and how she'd also been wounded. I can't remember all the details because it was such a long time ago, but I remember just that connection and that bond that I had with the little baboon, and how he enabled me to understand that when people do things, how much animals take things in and how much they feel things like we do. There's so much that we will say, you know, oh, animals don't feel this or they don't feel that. And really, I think it's more because we don't know how much they feel, or it doesn't serve us to know how much they think and feel. But my experience of animals is that they do have deep thoughts and they do process things in an emotional way like we do. Not the same, but it's as we feel things, they feel things deeply, deeply too. The next story I wanted to share with you was I was on my way back from a Tibetan tea garden monastery. I'd been doing a workshop out in Scotland, and Scotland is so beautiful. And we were driving along. It was about 8 at night, and it was still quite light. And just out of the corner of my eye, I saw a ferret lying in the road, whose head was still up, whose body was down. It had been hit by a car. And I said to my husband, please stop. We've got to stop the car. He's still alive. And he said to me, Nomi, it's very dangerous, you know. But I said, no, we've got to. I mean, I just felt that I had to. And, you know, I before I saw him, I heard this voice say, please help me. And I had looked and looked to see where this was coming from, and then had seen this ferret in the road and the head up, and so I assumed it was coming from him. You know, hear lots of different things, but it felt that that was the most practical and considering the situation. So we pulled over and we got out, and I had like a box or something in the car. My husband helped me, and the neighbor across the road who's standing outside. I get very scared with like birds and animals that, you know, I wanted to help, but I still didn't know how to help him into the car and all of that. So she helped us, and I put him in the car, and there were no vets or anybody to call at that time. So or in that area. So we traveled all the way back to the monastery. It was about half an hour. And apparently there's actually a monk or nun there, Tibetan monk or nun, that is in charge of birds, their safety, their well-being. But we couldn't find her at the time. And they said that her spot is also the laundry. So if I put him in there with a note, the monk bird would find him and take care of him. So I borrowed some tea towels, and I wrapped the ferret in the tea towels, and I put him in the laundry room for the monk, but also it was the warmest place. And just as I was about to leave, I was leaving the laundry and about to close the door, the ferret had been still the whole time in the car, carrying him to the laundromat, wrapping him in the tea towel, totally still. And as I was leaving to leave the laundry, he lifted up his head and he said, "Thank you." Just in the most beautiful heart space. I'll never forget it. Just we connected with each other in that moment. I, I'm telling the story, but nothing will do that moment or that day justice. Nothing will. And I just wanted to share 3 stories with you. Some of them are more clearer than others. Some of them happened, 10 years ago. The Tibetan one more recently. And I wanted to share that animals have a soul. They're thinking, feeling beings that really do communicate with us.